and welcome to RTB. As you can see, I'm on the Brother Canvas Workspace homepage, and I'm going to take you to my projects so that we can see what we're going to create today. We're going to make a flower cutout card. It's actually a tad more complicated than you would expect because of the central circular cutout. As you can see, I've made a few practices, a few attempts at it before, and what I've found that is really helpful is to build up your pattern collection before attempting to make a card like this. So let's get started and click on a new project. So here we are on our workspace. We've got a cutout mat and the patterns bar to the left hand side. The first thing I'm going to make are a couple of flower shape patterns, and if you caught my last video you will realize why I don't want to use the offset tool for any of these shapes. So let's go to basic, and what I'm looking for is a petal shape. So if I scroll down, there are some really nice little elliptical shapes and dropper type shapes. I'm going to choose this one because I like the rounded edges on it. There's no harsh corners. So I'll just move that to one side, and I also need a circle. And then we'll close that and we'll work on this shape first. So if we grab it by the handles and stretch it around a little bit, we can create quite a nice petal. And if you duplicate it, what I tend to do is use the keyboard a lot. So to duplicate, you can just hit D on the keyboard, or to make it easier for you, I'm going to right click my mouse and select duplicate. I now need to change this shape down a little bit. I know that there's a size scale down the corner of your screen here, but because this is all being done by eye, I'm not particularly going to use that. And so I'm just trying to create a center for my petal. And I think I quite like that. So I'll color these first so you can see what's going on by going to the Properties menu. I've got my inner center selected, and I'll just choose a color. And then we'll choose one for the outside, and I'm going to close that. And what I want to do is delete this inner part. So if we select both shapes, I've got the outside selected and I'm holding down the Shift key on my keypad. So that's both selected, and we'll go to Edit, and I want to subtract the center. So I'm just going to scale that down a little bit and move it out of the way, and then bring my circle in. And the circle I also want to have an inner shape for, but I'm going to leave that just for now while I arrange these petal shapes around it first. So as you can see, I'm just selecting and pulling these shapes around using my mouse. And I think that's going to be, I think that might be a little bit too big. No, maybe it's fine. Right, so what I need to do is I need to duplicate this. So I'm going to go to Duplicate, and I want it turning round. So you can either drag it by the Rotate handle and hold down the Shift key on your keyboard and rotate it 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and then arrange it up there, or we could have used Rotate in the Properties menu. So I'm just trying to line it up a little bit around the circle. And so I think that is a bit too big for what I want. Now I need to select both of these petal shapes, go to Edit, and I want to align them center. I'm now going to group them together. If I had grouped them together and I then selected the circle, you would see that it would do all sorts of crazy things. Actually, if I do that, you can see what happens. I'm really kind of assuming that if you're at this stage of making a petal, you probably already know that, but you may not. So if I try to select these separately and I go to Edit, Align, I'm okay there. But when I do the other Align, which is middle, that's what happens. So I want to select these first, Edit, Align, and then I'm going to group them. So now when I add the circle in too, I can align them properly at the middle. Did you see that move? And then align center so that I know that these are perfectly central. Now that I have those nicely lined up, what I'm going to do is press down the Alt key on my keypad and grab hold of this rotate handle, the little green one at the top. And this is what happens. It duplicates and pulls your petal around and rotates it. I'm holding down the Alt key and I'm duplicating. Now you have to let go each time and then grab it again, move it aside, grab. Now my petals aren't quite as fat as I was hoping they might be, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of adjusting because I want them to overlap each other. Maybe I can fit one more in. There we go. Right, so now what I need to do is to just move them around a bit. I don't mind them overlapping slightly. Maybe I should have started with that one. Can you see I'm trying to just keep inside these edges? I don't want to overlap. I really want to keep this center if I can. So I think I'm probably just going to jump ahead because you won't want to watch me rearranging all of these. It just gets a little bit boring. Okay, so I've had a little bit of a play around. We have got some overlapping a little bit more than I would have liked because that's going to affect the centers, but it doesn't matter too much when this card is scaled down so much. So now I'm going to drag a fence across all to select all of my petals, and I'm holding down my Shift key to deselect that circle in the middle. If you remember, we started off with a circle. So now I want to weld all of these together. So if I go to Edit and Weld in the Process Overlap tools. Now I need to send this to the back. So I've right-clicked on my Shift key on my mouse button, send to back. There we go. And we've got this circle at the front. If I just make it a little bit larger, what I want to do is to cover all of those little edges. So if I make my circle a little bit larger and center it by using the Align tools, And then what I can do is weld again. You should see the colour changing. There we go. So I can zoom out. We can use this little zoom box here to zoom out, or I could have just fit to window. Now I need another circle. And I just want to remove the center of this flower shape too. So if I hold down my shift and select the flower as well as the circle, we can go to align. So I want to center and middle again. And then just as we did before, I'm going to pop out that center bit by using the subtract in the process overlap. And I'll just colour that in again so that you can see what we have. There we go, that's our first flower, beautiful. I'm going to resize that and just move it out of the way. The next flower that I want to make is a little bit more odd shaped. It's just going to have 5 petals, and I don't want them to be perfectly sized and shaped. So I'm going to choose the same petal shape. It's like a bit like an egg. I need a circle again. Oh, there we go. Close that. Just going to scale that down a little bit. Move that to one side and bring this up. If you select your object, go to View and then Fit to Selection, we can see what we're working with. This time I want to pull it a little bit. I can use these handles. And then if I click inside the shape again while it's selected, or you double click the shape if it isn't selected, so you click twice, you bring up these control points. Now these have got handles on them, and if I do that, while it's symmetrical, it pulls the shape so that the handles stay perfectly in line. If I wanted to change that, just click on the symmetrical handles again, and then you can just move the handles individually. I actually wanted a little bit more curve, so I'm going to undo that and double click in there again, and I think I'm just going to skew that and stretch it a bit. Just going to move my shape so I can see it a bit better. So you can just mess until you get the petal shape that you quite like. I'm going to leave it like that. I sort of like that shape, it's a bit odd. Then I'm going to duplicate it. If I just move my duplicate to one side and scale it down, bring it in, and we're doing pretty much the same as we did with the first flower. I think I just make that a little bit bigger there, and yep, that's fine. So I'm holding down my shift key to select both parts, and I want to punch out the middle again, so I'm going to edit and subtract. So if I colour that in so that you can see, and I'm going to Fit to Matte, bring it down. Now I said that I wanted 5 of these, so I'm going to duplicate it 5 times. Now the easier way for me to do that is to just hit D on my keypad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lovely. So I'm going to bring my circle back in again, and we'll just bring it down. This is just a case of messing until you're happy. I'm going to duplicate this circle and set it aside because, as you remember, we needed a circle for the center of that. Now I'm just going to arrange these petals around. So I'm going to speed up here because it's pretty much what I did before. I'm just going to keep adjusting the size of them until I'm happy. And I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, so here we are again, and you can see that I've rearranged my petal shapes around the circle, but the circle is a little bit larger than I want it to be, so I'm going to bring it to the front by right-clicking on my mouse and select Bring to Front. I'm going to fill the colour in so that you can see what we have. And I'm going to just reduce it down. So I think you can see that I've just covered all of the edges with that circle. So I'm going to select all of it by drawing a fence around it and then go to Edit and Weld. I've got a little stray piece in there I can see from the distance. So if I zoom in, and yes, you can see I can't just highlight it and cut it separately. I've clicked twice in this flower shape, and we've got the little nodes again, and the node or control point drop down menu has come up again. So what we can do is we can draw a little fence around them and just delete. Okay, so let's fit to window, fit to mat, and bring in our larger circle. Need to bring that to the front. You can see that it wasn't at the front. It isn't at the front because obviously it's hiding behind the shape there. So I want to bring it to the front. I'm going to fill it again, so go to the Properties bar, choose Colour, and just bring it in front there, and I'm going to reduce it down because I actually want a little cutout, but I want it as large as I can. We're not going to be able to use the center tools, the align tools for this because it's an odd shape, so we just have to do it by eye. So I'm just going to zoom to selection. There we go, and again I want to punch out that center, so holding down my shift key I'm selecting both shapes. I'm going to go to Edit and Remove, Subtract. So there we have our two flower shapes. I'm going to save these now, and I'm going to call them cutout flowers. Well, I'll call them something. Flowers. And save. It's asking to overwrite the project and save. Saving the project is complete. OK. So now I'm going to open up a new canvas because I don't want to clog this one up. So we'll go to Create New Project, and I'll see you in a little bit. It's asking if I want to leave. Yes, I do.